weather forecast today?
Today's forecast, a lot of sunshine, blue skies, marine clouds. Just a perfect day to go outside and relax. That's your forecast. We'll be right back.
Yeah, sunny days, sunny days, sunny days. No clouds in the sky, about to get away. Feels like it's been a freaking decade.
Welcome back to our latest episode of Contracts and Cocktails. I'm Kellie Bowling. I had to look at her for
she had to make sure
validation.
She knew who she was.
Is that right?
I'm Carolyn Smith. We're with the Coastal Estate team at Compass.
Today we're going to talk about our market stats. And I know we just did this not long ago, but it's a new month and there's new data to share. So,
and it's interesting data.
Yes, it is.
I think it's interesting.
I think so too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, our inventory. So it's up. Mm-hmm. It is up a good bit. It was 0.8 months in January of 2022. But this year.
So that's a year. So January 2022 was a year ago.
Right.
Yep.
And now we're up to 2.3 months of inventory. So it sounds like we've had a great jump. Mm-hmm. But how many months do we need for a balanced market?
5 to 6.
So we're still low.
We're still low.
Yeah.
And I feel like we really need to understand that we have been a little slow for a little bit. We have been a little slow. Inventory's been creeping up slowly, but
yes.
the market's been a little slow, and we are feeling that changing.
Oh yes, the shift has definitely happened. Mm-hmm. Would you say it was around mid-January that you felt the pickup? Mm-hmm. Yep. Buyers were back looking, and now they're really looking.
Yes. So we are still getting, more listings, and that shows in the statistics that you have as well.
Those are up 11.2% from last year, which is great. That's a big jump.
And it's helpful because the buyers, you have things to look at. You're not just going out looking at one house or two houses.
It was like that a year ago, like one house at a time. But now you can actually schedule tours. I mean, Carolyn was showing people 20 properties a day.
Not quite that many, but it was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. But I think that we're really seeing, although the inventory is up, when we go, so we book the houses we want to see, and let's say we booked 7 houses, oftentimes right now, 2 of them will go under contract.
Yeah.
Or they'll have an offer or
several.
Yeah. Or several on those properties where there was a little gap there where we weren't seeing them. Mm-hmm. You're seeing that too. And you're seeing that on your most recent listing.
It was crazy. It was, it's actually in Palm Bay, like near Harris. Mm-hmm. And first day, I've got an offer coming in. And it's somebody who hasn't even seen the house yet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to really need you to take your buyer there. We want to make sure that they really love it. And, so she did the next day. And then I had another agent was like, I'm going to be sending you an offer. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
So then I reached out to everybody else who was going to be showing. I was like, if you can get your buyers in, now, like today.
And this is like the first day, right?
First day.
Yeah.
The first day on the market. Yeah. And so, please go show it today if you can. I understand some people weren't in town or weren't able to. I'm like, the seller wants to be able to make a decision because the first one was like, they were only giving us 24 hours to decide. Mm-hmm. And I kind of hate that. It's like, you want to give everybody a fair shot.
Right.
But not trying to leverage that offer over another, you know. But as luck would have it, the first buyer dropped out after they saw it. They were like, we just don't like the location. I'm like, okay, this is why we wanted you to see it. Right. Fair enough. And then the second offer did finally come in. We execute. And then another guy was showing it while it was getting executed. And he literally called me as he was leaving. He goes, when did you get that offer that just went, locked it in under contract? I was like, it came in at midnight. I did send him a text the day before to say, hey, this is what's going on. And I guess he didn't see it. He didn't respond. There was multiple messages, to be fair. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I guess he doesn't care that much. It's not that big a deal. Maybe it's just on their route. And they're like, we'll just keep it, whatever.
Right.
He was like, oh, well, I'm going to be sending you a backup offer. I'm like, what? Never happens.
Yeah.
And so they did. They sent a backup offer just in time because then the other buyer who was under contract for a whole day, she got her loan estimate and the rates went up.
The rates have gone up. The rates went up with the job report. The job report came out and spooked the market a little bit. The rates went up some.
They did. And so it kind of kicked her out. She's like, I'm not comfortable with the monthly payment at that rate. So I have to drop out. And so then here we are. We're on number 3 now.
But 3's the charm. The third time's the charm.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a better deal for my seller.
Yeah.
It's over ask.
Yeah.
And it's cash. And it's closing fast.
And we're seeing that. It's funny because I had a woman, she wanted to see this property. It came on Sunday morning. And it was in an area where there's villas. So a lot of villas had been sitting. And I said, these have been selling quick. She's like, well, this one looks like it needs, it's got this blue and white flowered wallpaper in the bathroom. And The refrigerator looks like it's on its last leg. This is from the pictures. And she's like, can we go see that on Sunday? And no, this was Sunday, on Monday. And I said, yeah, let me reach out to the agents. She said, I'll get a hold of the owners and I'll call you back. So during that time, that day went on, and I said, look, everything has sold. Like all the ones that were on the market has sold. If you think you're going to get a great deal on this, I don't think that's going to happen. And so she's like, well, then maybe I don't want to see it because I feel like I would want a great deal because of the work that it needs. And I said, I think it's priced kind of to move. It wasn't underpriced, but it was priced. And by the time the agent called me back, she already had 2 offers. Now, this is the day it came on the market, and we're seeing that more and more again.
Yeah.
It's not what it was a year ago. It's not the crazy.
No, not yet.
Not yet, but
I
the
feel
buyers
like it might
are
be coming again.
Yeah, the buyers are coming back, and they're anxious to purchase this area. So one of my really good friends and clients, her husband works for, and I think I can say this, he works for one of the large aerospace companies, and he's in charge of hiring. They have like 700 openings.
That's crazy.
700 for engineers that he's trying to fill.
So if you're an engineer, call Carolyn.
Yeah,
she has the inside
send me a message. I'm going to post it. I'm going to repost her post.
Yeah.
So that people know, because he is actually looking for people. They're like trying to fill these slots. So there's all these people moving here. And, and plus, I mean, let's just say I looked up the statistics where people are moving from. A lot of people moving from South Florida right now.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. Where are people coming from? And a lot from South Florida, the New York area. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't wait around.
Don't sleep on it.
Don't sleep on it.
That's for sure. And that's, I have a client who's selling their house here because they're moving out of the area, taking a new job. And they've been looking for a home in that area even before they're ready to like actually go on the market here.
Right.
And they put in an offer on a house that was in their budget and went $25,000 over asking. It was all cash, and they still didn't get it. They weren't even second place. And this is like outside of Athens, Georgia. So I'm like, wow. So it's not just here. I feel like it's in other areas too. Maybe not everywhere, but I have a friend she's a realtor in Maryland, in Southern Maryland, where I came from. And she was telling me that their market is not what it was. And she had to take a second job because she just isn't selling,
Yeah. And that's what when we look at the national news, if you look at like national news, internet, that's not local, you're saying, house prices are declining in some areas. Florida is its own animal. And obviously, maybe this area of Georgia, there's certain areas that are not slowing down.
There's like little pockets, like hot spots, And, when you talk about, increasing in value and stuff like that, our prices falling, they're not growing at the same rate that they were a year ago.
No.
So like with our January report, we're only up 6.5% from last January as far as price, our median sales price. So January 2022, it was $329,000, the median sales price. And this year it was up to $350,540. So that's an increase of 6.5%. Last year, so in January 2022, that price increase was almost 22%. It was 21.9% over January 21. So that big jump in price year over year is going to go back, I think, more to normal levels.
Yes, which is around 3%.
Yes. So it's definitely dropped. That's probably a good thing for these buyers, though, because if we keep jumping up, 22% a year, like that's just not sustainable.
It starts to become unaffordable.
Yeah.
Unaffordable
definitely.
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so we definitely we don't want that to happen.
We have children that need to buy homes so they could move out. So we don't want that to happen.
Get the hell out. We love our kids.
Yes, we do.
We mean that in the nicest way.
Yes.
But I think that we're moving towards a more stable market, but we're also seeing this pick back up again. And I don't know that we're going to get back to 3% if this continues, because this is sort of I'm seeing this across like a lot of different price ranges.
Yeah.
Especially true, though, in this median price range. This 350 price range is hot right now. This 300 to 400, super hot right now. People looking for investment properties, rentals, it starts to become hard for an investor to get an annual rental type property, because the rents, although they've increased, start to not cover from an investment standpoint. So that becomes more difficult. You're going to probably see less investors buying long-term rental properties. But then that's almost a negative, because then we sort of add to that rental shortage, and then maybe rental rates are going up.
Yeah.
So
it's just like this constant roller coaster,
Yes.
I feel like, the way it works.
Yeah.
But, and then, people that want to get a deal, or they think that, we'll just renegotiate after we have our inspections because surely things will be wrong. And that's true. There's always stuff that's, wrong.
There is.
And you can't control, what your buyer is going to want, like, they're firm on this and what the seller is going to be firm on. And sometimes just a meeting in the middle can't be found. But, negotiating repairs has gotten to be a little bit different. We're able to do some, I feel like. And then other times when you think, oh, this is a done deal, like surely they'll fix this.
Right.
And then it turns out not to be the case. Like the seller's just like, nope, not doing it. And the buyer's like, well, then I'm not gonna buy it. And then, everybody loses the deal.
The whole thing falls apart. I think it's important for buyers to remember that the contract that we use most of the time now, which is different than, probably even 5 years ago, but definitely 10 years ago, we used to use the repair clause contract that specified a dollar amount of repairs that would be done by the seller. Now we use the as-is contract 99% of the time. Yeah. So when you're a buyer and you're looking at a house and it's not brand new, or even if it is brand new, but builders are different. But when you're looking at a home, you have to anticipate a certain amount of things, and based on the condition that you do see, but you still have to anticipate there's going to be things that are not perfect.
Because you're not climbing in the attic when you're looking at the house, or, well, you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, there are those buyers sometimes that will poke their head up into the hole. But, for the most part, you're not doing a thorough investigation.
You're not opening and closing every window. You're not checking every electrical outlet. And there's going to be things. So you need to anticipate that. And you need to offer based on, I'm going to have to do some things post-closing.
Right.
I'm not going to come back and ask for every little thing on my inspection report. It doesn't say that you're not going to ask for things that are larger or more expensive or whatever.
Right.
And we, as your agent, will do whatever you want. But our advice is always, when you place your offer, remember, you're going to need to do some things.
Yeah.
It's a as-is contract. You're buying the house in its as-is condition.
Well, then you have the mindset, too, of the buyer who maybe paid a little over asking because they were competing with other offers, so that when minor things pop up, they want to ask for everything. Because they're like, well, I paid over asking. I expect a perfect home. And sometimes you get lucky. I had this happen recently. I got so lucky. The seller was more than accommodating. They agreed to all but 2 requests on paper. And then at the end of the day, they ended up doing everything because they felt for the buyer. They were buying a home for their daughter who's going to be going to school here, and they live in another state. They can't be here to help her. So they were like, we're going to take care of her for you. And if you need anything after closing, they were so nice. Like, here's the name of the contractor that we used.
That's nice. That's awesome.
I feel like that's generating good karma.
Yeah,
it really is.
And it makes everybody happy, and it's amazing, and it's wonderful, and we love it.
We had a 9-day closing on that one. I loved it.
Yes, and meanwhile, I have a deal where the seller's refusing to do a $175 repair, and the buyer is upset about it, and it's at the end of the day, it's $175. This is not a $100,000 property,
right?
And we're arguing about that, and it's like,
is it worth it?
Yeah. Can we really just come to terms here? I mean, we'll work through it, but still.
Look, at the end of the day, what is everybody's goal? The seller wants to sell. The buyer wants to buy.
Yes.
Let's just make it happen. Instead of like letting your ego get in the way. Right. Well, I didn't get what I wanted. Or the seller, like, I don't want to give them anything extra, even if it's like $1,
People get very emotional. The seller can start to feel like the buyer is trying to take advantage of me. And the buyer can feel like I've overpaid.
Oh, yeah.
And the seller's trying to take advantage of me. So everyone's, no one's, in most cases, no one's trying to take advantage of anyone. No. They're just a lot of emotions rolling around there.
And sometimes as the realtor, you have to understand that everybody wants to feel like they got something in the end. So even if it's just like a compromise, it's not exactly what one party wanted or the other, but it's somewhere in the middle where, the buyer gets a little, the seller gets a little, feels like they have a win. They just need to feel like they have a win.
Yes.
Then sometimes you can make it happen.
Yes.
So that's always the goal. Like,
that's our goal.
Yes.
Let's make it happen.
We're like the mediators, We do work for our clients and we want you to get what you want. But at the end of the day, what you really want is that house when you're the buyer, And as the seller, what you really want is to sell the house and move on with your life. So we're working towards that goal depending on who we're representing.
We're working for the transaction to try and make that transaction happen for all parties. So do we talk about the interest rates a little bit?
Well, like we did a little bit with that buyer who fell out because she realized after she got her loan disclosures that was going to be a no-fly for her, on the monthly payment. And I feel like that's something you have to be cognizant of. And she had her pre-qualification letter, like
Yes.
it was only 2 weeks old.
Yes.
So a lot can change sometimes even overnight.
A quarter of a point, you wouldn't think makes that big of a difference, but it does.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, don't forget, I'm working with a buyer now who's like, but, you know, and I talked to the lender and he's like, she said she did not want to buy in an HOA community. And next thing you know, she's looking not only an HOA community, but a townhouse. So then we're talking about overlays of fees because, you know, they're taking care of maintaining the exterior. Sometimes insurance is included on a townhouse, so building insurance. And all of these things are factors when the lender's determining what you qualify for. And although you only inherit taxes for the year of purchase, it resets on January 1 based on your new market value. They use those taxes, the current taxes, to determine what you qualify for. They base it on the current, except when it's new construction.
Right.
But they base it on the current home taxes. So don't forget those things. If somebody has a homestead and they have artificially low taxes, that helps you qualify for more. But you need to remember, it's going to reset.
Yeah.
I'm going to end up with a higher payment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so
and
don't
then,
forget
you
those
know,
things.
you have to, I know that we take this into account when we're showing them properties. If they're searching at the top of their budget and they want to look at this 1980s wood frame, you know, house, well, the insurance on that is going to be really high. And you have to kind of take that into account and be like, well, let's make sure that that will work for you because this is what the insurance is likely going to be annually before we have you spend money on that inspection. That's the goal. We're trying to save you money.
Yes. And we have found just recently, it's just, I mean, it's not been explained to us, but that condo insurance, and we're not talking about like direct oceanfront condos, condos in general, the insurance has really, a lot of condo insurers have pulled out of the market and the insurance rates on condos have gone way up. So we had a property where we could get an HO6 policy, which is a standard condo policy where you're only insuring drywall in, or an HO3 policy, which is the entire structure.
Right.
We had the choice. The HO3 policy was actually cheaper by several $1,000s.
Yes. It was a very big difference in cost.
So you would expect, well, if I'm only insuring drywall in, it's going to cost less money. In this case, it did not.
Right.
So be careful with the condo insurance and, you know, always make sure you check with the
Because you
insurance
can
agent.
do the whole structure. There's nothing wrong with doing that. You're just over.
You can on a townhouse.
Yes.
On a condo, you can't.
But, you know, it's very interesting how much you can save. And insurance has always kind of eluded me as to like the whys of it. None of it makes any sense to me. And I always ask the question, why is this one so high?
Yes.
And they'll explain to me. And so then I'll think on the next one, oh, it's because of this. And they're like, no, it's because the fire department's too far away.
Makes no
or
sense.
Something.
Yeah, right. You're too far from the fire hydrant.
Right.
My dog does not need the fire hydrant. Don't care about the fire hydrant.
That's kind of important if you have a fire, I guess.
It's not usually our biggest concern here.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't say that. That's like knock on wood.
Oh, gosh. Right.
So I think that's it.
That's it for today.
Yeah. All right. So we will see you next time. Have an awesome week.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Weather forecast today.
Today's forecast, a lot of sunshine, blue skies, marine clouds. Just the perfect day to go outside and relax. That's your forecast. We'll be right back.